Tail patch notes for Overwatch 2. Alrighty, let's see what's going on here. Galactic Rescue. So basically a new custom game mode. Custom game modes are not custom game modes. Arcade game modes are usually pretty gimmicky and honestly not worth your time. They're fun for maybe all of... Oh, there's they want you to play it. They locked an epic skin behind it. Okay, well, I guess play it up then. Once again, this game really lacks quick play game mode, a casual game mode, not arcade. Arcade is gimmicky bullshit, guys. It's stuff that you play once and you're like, yeah, this is okay, and then you're done with it forever, like Lucio Ball. And that's basically what arcade is. I don't understand why they haven't replaced quick play with something meaningful at this point, because it's basically like shitty comp. That's what quick play is. It's been that way since time began, and they still keep it that way. Hey, Snake. That's lewd. Please respect my privacy. Don't ask about my hanging things, especially my plants. Battle for Olympus. Yeah, so basically more arcade stuff. Don't care. I'm not going to be playing it. I'm sure other streamers are. I don't care. Usually, almost every single game mode has been kind of... Custom arcade game mode has kind of been poop. This is another one. Sure. So, you know. See how it goes. No, don't encourage him, chat. Don't talk to him, don't acknowledge him. Start talking about his feces. Anyways. But yeah, anyways, the game needs a new custom game mode for Overwatch 2. Not a custom game mode. Quick play needs a new overhaul. It's needed overhaul since comp was introduced. I mentioned before they needed to increase things to like a 12v12 or maybe a 10v10 and basically increase the amount of time. Not for comp, mind you, for quick play. So more like TF2, increase the amount of time or slow down the objective progression in the middle of it in order to make it more grindy. And obviously you can do mirror picks or whatever, and then they can do, you know, your dealer's choice of TDS, which is tank, DPS, and support. So like 2 tanks, 5 DPS, and 5 support or something, but that'd be really tanky. So maybe 6 DPS and 4 support. Supports are very powerful. Ping system. Group up can now be used while dead. That's good. There's a lot of improvements they need to do to the ping system in general. When you die, you should be able to point out whoever you want. It should be free floating, not just looking at who killed you. And you should be able to ping people, just like you can with voice comms, ping people that are otherwise... otherwise you could point out with just voice comms. Just be able to free ping people until basically you go to the dead screen. Not just ping the person that killed you, because pinging the person that killed you usually is not what you want to ping. Sometimes it is, but oftentimes it's not. And the only way is kind of like a gotcha, so you can ping if the person's low on health, and then your team can know to kill them, right? Yeah. But right now, when you die, it's kind of very lackluster. Ping is much more useful than even voice comms are, because almost no one has ping muted, and ping is very straight to the point, syntaxically straight to the point, where you just ping something and it tells you exactly what you need to know. And voice comms in the game are generally just trash talking or passive aggressive behavior. It's just literally just a bunch of shit talking, and that's the reason most people mute them. And something that I muted years ago, as I mentioned before, the highest I got in Overwatch 2, guys, as far as comp rating goes, was after I muted voice comms in Season 2. Because I didn't mute them, I just turned them to 1% so I couldn't hear anything, and so the game still thought that I had them on. And then I would just make callouts. Well, I couldn't actually hear people talking back to me. Because it didn't matter what they said most of the time, and you can infer a lot from what you're seeing around you without ever actually hearing calls. So sometimes they're useful, but most of the time they're not. It's like 95% of it is just trash talk / passive-aggressive behavior / people just blaming other people for what's going on in the game. And then maybe 3% is like for callouts, and like 2% is like for praising someone or thanking them or something like that. Maybe even less than that, 1%. Respawn time for players is increased by 2 seconds, up from 10 to 12 seconds while the team's forward spawn location is activated. Yeah. Forward spawn locations were proving to be too advantageous for the team with the lead. I don't think this has anything to do with that. They changed their matchmaker a lot, and matchmaker right now seems to be very steamrolly. So, yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with that. But I mean, you can normalize for that across the board, right? For increased steamrolls, but in certain game modes, this could be more obvious than other game modes. Our decay system has received multiple improvements aimed at more quickly and accurately recalibrating players. So you just have you lose more and gain more MMR when you come back for a decent amount of time. Competitive deathmatch season, don't care. Junker Queen. Ammo increase. Easier to hit with your throwing blade. You now immediately get hit for 40 damage on Rampage, and wound damage decreased from 100 to 60, and I think the reason they did this is because Kiriko almost completely negates her ult, like many ults, because she has a Sensu Bean, which is the most powerful ability in the game. She doesn't have the most powerful kit that goes to Ana, but she hands down has the most powerful ability in the game, which provides invulnerability and cleanses you of most effects, which negates a lot of ults in the game. So, yeah. Kiriko needs to have the invulnerability removed from her Sensu Bean. That definitely needs to go away. Like many supports, they're way overpowered right now. I guess overtuned, the kids say overtuned now instead of overpowered. They're overtuned because it makes it sound more professional or something. Her sustain has went up substantially. Adrenaline passive healing multiplier increased from 1.25 to 2x. Pretty meaty. Well, we'll see how it goes. Increase the damage on Orisa. Orisa can easily get out of control with her fusion driver. I think she was at one point was much higher than she is now. She's basically like a Bastion. And that's a tank. His leap is now more forgiving as far as the radius goes. Some of these you just have to wait and see when you get into the game. This in and of itself, so far, the only thing that I'd say is kind of weird is this right here, and I think this has a lot to do with Kiriko just completely negating her ult just by bonging, which is absurd because it's a 15-second cooldown, and her ult is an ultimate. Maybe they should just get rid of the ultimates on support characters and just give them really strong base kit, which they already pretty much have. Maybe that's where we should go with things, guys. They're nerfing Wrecking Ball a little bit. As I mentioned before, I think Wrecking Ball needs nerfs, but not in this way. He needs to have his transition time between Ball and, I don't know, Ball and Mech form needs to be nerfed, or vice versa. He needs to take more time to go back into Ball, so it's more risk-reward as far as when he actually tries to harass people, as opposed to just attacking his sustain / survivability. You can easily turn into a shitbird just by messing with the survivability, which he was. I wouldn't even say he was that bad. It's just very rare to see good Wrecking Balls. Alrighty. Echo got a buff. Her ult cost is reduced by 25%. Ult generation decreased from 5.5 to 4. Oh no, so she might not always get the ult of the character she copies. Yeah, okay. So almost always gets the ult now instead of always gets the ult. That's weird. Increases concussion mine damage on Junkrat. He needed that. Oh, supports. Anna, explosion healing decreased by 100 to 60. This effectively affects her ability to sustain herself on 1v1s. A lot of healers are very, very good at 1v1s. You're like, nah, they're healers. They suck at everything. No. Anna's really good at 1v1s. Baptiste can hands down win a 1v1 against almost every character. Yeah. Kiriko is also very good at 1v1s, and if she loses the 1v1, she just teleports away, and effectively it's like still a win for her because you just wasted a bunch of someone else's time at the expense of them possibly dying, and they don't get to secure a kill. Yeah, and kind of, sorta need a little bit more of maybe go after her damage rather than her biotic grenade, because this will help her survive in close quarters, but then also reduces her ability. This effectively is more of a nerf to her sustain than it is to other healers or to other characters she's healing. Obviously, this affects her healing, but you still get a multiplier. Biotic grenade is so powerful because it does 4 different things. It does damage, it does healing, it increases healing, and it stops people from being healed. It is incredibly, incredibly powerful, which is one of the reasons she has the strongest kit in the game, which is the other one being Sleep Dart, which is effectively a stun/incapacitate, because you're stuck in a 0.5 second sleep / 0.5 second wake up animation in which you can't do anything, which is a stun. So yeah, very, very, very powerful kit. And rather than go after this, I don't think they should nerf survivability healers. Instead, they should be nerfing their ability to do damage. They should not be as damage prone as they are now. They should have the ability to run away and obviously win fights if their teammates are around, but I don't think that they should be able to duel a DPS and usually win if they know what they're doing. Obviously there are characters, there are healers, supports that isn't true for, but for the majority of supports, that is definitely, not majority, for some of the supports that are overpowered, and 3 of them are showing up here, that's definitely a big deal. Kiriko, Anna, Baptiste, and Mercy, I don't know why she is also not just meta, because she's incredibly good, and she's next to impossible to kill because they made sure that when they unbuffed her for some reason, probably because there's a bunch of Dunning-Kruger Mercies just running around out there that think she needs buffs because they don't know how to use super jump properly or animation cancels. But that's also because Blizzard doesn't make it outwardly apparent. I've seen literally Mercies fly across half the map with using their Guardian Angels, so yeah. And she has 2 different versions of Guardian Angel. Some people don't even know that. One where she can fly straight up in the air, and the other one where she can coast super far. And both are like glide. Both are incredibly powerful, especially when you use them properly. So there's a pretty big skill gap between people that just like do the bare minimum of Mercy, and they're like, oh, she sucks. And then people that are like, hey, I'm fucking assassin when I use my Q, and I can literally kill anything in the game. Because she can. When she uses her Q and her bust gun, which the projectiles are 4 to 5 times the size of the actual graphic, she can fly around and kill pretty much anything. And you don't even need to be good at it. You can literally hit the outline, like outside the character, and hit the character. So you don't even need to be good at what you're doing and hit people's heads easy as shit. She has the biggest projectile, one of the biggest projectiles in the game. And a sleep dart is also fucking huge, which in no way, shape, or form matches. It's once again about 4 or 5 times Mercy's projectiles. In no way, shape, or form actually matches the dart, which is why it's so easy to hit them. Anyways, so she got a nerf, and she definitely needs a nerf, but I think they should went after her damage instead. Immortality field cooldown decreased from 25 to 23 seconds, so Baptiste got a buff for whatever reason. And that's not even, like, 2 seconds isn't going to make that much of a difference. Does it coincide with something? No. So they could have probably went from 25 to 20 or maybe even to 15 seconds if they want to see what they're trying to do right now. And get more and more oppressive as they do it, but 2 seconds I don't think is going to change anything. Kiriko. They prevented it from... This is one of the weird things you learn from characters. You don't need to wait for animations to finish. I don't know why. You don't need to wait for animations to finish, which is counterintuitive, and instead they reloads partially into the animation, which doesn't make sense. So I don't really believe in kind of like Fair is the same way. I think it's like 66% or 70% of the animation has to finish, and then you're finish reload. Turn it off. Just cancel or reload now. Earthshatter is an ultimate where positioning is critical to effectively use, so we're adjusting it so Reinhardt doesn't have their ultimate be effectively canceled when Lifeweaver uses his Life Grip. Reinhardt is no longer a valid target for Life Grip during Earthshatter, and using Earthshatter will cancel Life Grip. Weird. It's almost like the character playing the character probably knows better than the guy life gripping them. If there was an option to turn off the ability for someone to pull you, most people would turn it off. Well, when Lifeweaver first came out, probably for the first week, I was not being pulled necessarily in a negative way. As he's been out more and more, I've definitely had more and more Lifeweavers that think they know better than what I'm doing. And when I'm in a position to kill someone, will pull me out when I'm at like half health or something, thinking they're saving me, when I'm trying to get a pick because we need a pick to actually push whatever objective we're doing, because we're at a stagnate. Yeah. So, I don't know. This definitely needs to be retweaked. We've talked about this. This has been a hot topic since he's been released. Quality of life adjustments for heroes. High boosters, high cancel. Rocket punch meter, rocket punch cancel text. There's some you even want to turn on. Hold to use power block. Rocket punch meter. Some of these don't pop up. They're contextual, where they only pop up when you're doing certain things. Doesn't look like there's one to turn stuff on. Hold to use power block is probably something most people are going to prefer. Okay. ability to adjust sensitivity during different things. Looks like some of these affect basically gamepads where you need it for gamepad usage. Yeah, looks like a lot of these are accessibility options for controllers. Toggle hover jets. Yeah. No, no, that's okay. You literally tap hover jets, so yeah, you know. Are these actually useful? Most of these aren't. Most of these are literally accessibility, or just, hey, look, there's less stuff on my screen. Yeah, it's like gamepad accessibility options. Backwards wall right option is now on by default. Yep. There's a couple characters where they did. This is Lucio. There's a couple characters where they actually added a quality of life option is actually really important, and some people don't actually know they exist, so they don't turn them on. Mercy is another one. Yeah, nothing really of interest there. All right. Well, of things that changed here, guys, probably one of the biggest changes is biotic explosion on Anna. The echo changes also could be very, very meaty, considering she basically gets a free life when she uses it. I don't think something they're considering here is Echo's duplicate is definitely something that can just be used to get you out of a shit situation. So, yeah. Puts more emphasis on choosing duplicate target based on the hero's overall utility for a given situation, which with the benefit of increased survivability due to transforming. So they kind of included it. I don't know why. She's a very, very lightweight, fast, incredibly powerful DPS character. She's more powerful than Pharah as far as flight goes. She's basically Pharah 2.0. She essentially has a kit to kill Pharah and everything else, so. Junker Queen. The adrenaline rush changes might also be really big as well. Say 0.75 on their adrenaline. Might actually be really fucking huge. They also changed Rampage. Yeah. Alright, nothing super amazing here, but interesting nonetheless. Junker Queen, Echo, and Anna. Yeah. And then there's custom game mode, don't care. Not custom game mode, arcade game mode. Alright, Overwatch, let's take a look at the comment section. Add a new setting for communication ping options. Enable contextual comms wheel. When enabled, the setting changes group up and need healing to use alternate comms when aiming at allies. Yep. When you would look at allies and use group up, it would instead say on play. It would instead play on my way. You can turn it off so that it wouldn't use an alternate line when looking at allies. No fucking shit. But one of the worst things ever, because they mean two completely different things, and both I almost never want to use on my way. Like, you're usually telling them to group up when they're in the middle of nowhere all alone. you want them to actually group up with the team so they don't kill themselves, and then they have to basically it effectively ruins your push, right? Effectively ruins your engagement. Actual menus oftentimes are fucking garbage too. Says more accessibility for like gamepad users, people that have limited ability to manipulate keys. Come to me for healing is so incredibly useful, yeah. Not a lot of supports do that, though. I don't know why people saying take space. It's like they're coming to the new concept of area control, area denial, guys. Something I've talked about for over a decade at this point. Most people have because it's a strategic concept where you control an area. Area control, area denial isn't something that gamers just came up with. Weird. Also falls into the premise of pressure, applying offensive pressure and defensive pressure to keep the enemy team from running you over. Because you can't just pull back to your last defensive point and expect them to literally take time to get there. That's the whole reason you apply pressure to the enemy team. There's like a patch where I need to invest in Junker Queen. Yeah. I mean, she wasn't bad before that either. The buff is insane, honestly. I always feel like Junker Queen would be absolutely correct with a little bit more survivability. Yeah. We'll see, though. Yeah? Is this something new kids are talking about now? Coaches being kids that basically played Overwatch like 2 years ago. It's everyone's job. It's not just the tank's job. Tanks primarily. That's why I say the only character that matters when they die are tanks, because tanks need to express an area control. It's everyone's job to do that, though, especially DPS, because they They exert a very pointed area of control, like if they invade. It can completely change things, invade or flank. Which is something in MOBAs. MOBAs teach you a lot of different skills, which is kind of weird that they haven't just trickled over to Overwatch. Because Overwatch is essentially a MOBA. Huge Junker Queen buff still can't cancel your ult as Pharah. Uh-huh. Quality of life updates, but still can't cancel ult. Queen might be huge now, yeah. Life steal is a big deal. Especially for a tank that's already very tanky. What have they said about Life Weaver in Season 5? Nothing. They're waiting until Season 5 to tackle that because they're probably seeing how well he shakes out. There's a lot of people that just don't play him because they think he sucks. And I've seen a decent number of Life Weavers, relatively decent number of Life Weavers that aren't terrible. There's just a lot. It is common Zeitgeist right now to regard Life Weaver as being terrible, which he was prior to his buffs, but then he got buffs, and he's not super terrible now. His healing's generally on par or better than a lot of healers. Not as good as Ana or Mercy, mind you, because they're insane, but still very good. And then he has utility to back it up, and a lot of survivability. Good. So waiting for the day they get rid of Zims or even address them on console. Nothing like a pseudo aimbot that essentially doesn't get it banned. I think I've only seen one non-Zim cross-platform player in quick play. That was good. Very easy to tell the difference. Gamepad and a Zim. Pretty sure they do not ban Zims. I've reported them. I report every Zim I see, but I'm pretty sure they don't ban them. Which, by the way, Zims, if you guys are curious about the difference between a gamepad and a Zim, gamepads will be very jagged movement. It looks like, and oftentimes, like you have directional changes that are more pointed rather than more circular, especially like logarithmic. So something like you can do with mouse, for instance, you can draw a spiral, will be much more difficult on a gamepad, and will oftentimes have like little abrupt edges to it. And you can see that in aiming with players, especially when they're aiming around. It doesn't matter what sensitivity they're using. So, and with Zim users, they're basically always just attached to your character, and there's almost no instant reaction time. There's no rotation at all, where it looks like they're rotating with a gamepad or something like that. And oftentimes, movement on a gamepad is very linear, or more linear. Very, very easy to pick out a gamepad versus Zim / keyboard mouse. And nerf is huge. What the fuck? He is literally the best healer in the game. Plain. I don't get why they're giving one tank an exception. Yeah, I don't know why either. Probably because they're trying to make concessions internally with the fact that the pole is going to be a misused ability, and often already times is being misused, so... yeah. And it got hit hard, especially considering following Sleep Dart. Sleep Dart functionality is still almost as good as it was before. It's 3.5 instead of 5 seconds. Most of the time people can group up and kill the person in 3.5 seconds regardless. Oriana can run away. But what really does damage to you with their Sleep Dart is the 1 second stun, which is 0.5 seconds to sleep and 0.5 seconds to wake up, in which you can't do anything. May was getting a rework on the gun. One is that. Yeah, she needs to have CC back, or it needs to be like a flamethrower, cryo thrower, where it actually does progressively more damage the longer they're in the stream or something. Being a shitty Hanzo is definitely not where May should be. She should honestly just be a tank. We've talked about that before. We talked about that when I heard about Doomfist being a tank in Overwatch 2 and May being a DPS, which made no fucking sense. Doomfist definitely was a great DPS in terms of diveability and interesting way of playing, where May is definitely just basically an off tank at this point. She's a tank that DPS can play, off tank that DPS can play. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense if she was just a tank, doesn't it? Kind of basically has a survive. She just needed more HP. Maybe a bit more damage, because tanks now are different than tanks were in Overwatch 1. playing Mei correctly, you should be using your secondary fire considerably amount of time. Yeah, it's because your primary fire sucks. Both of her abilities basically suck. Or about zimming? Closer than ever with Mousetrap. That's just buzzword. That's a buzzword that Valorant came out with, I believe. No, Rainbow Six came out with. Ubisoft. It's not actually technology. That's buzzword. Junkrat doesn't need buffs. I don't know why Junkrat got buffs. Not that I'm against him doing damage, but it didn't seem like he needed buffs. Okay, let's move along, guys. We'll turn this into a highlight. Obviously, I can't do it while I'm streaming. I used to. Not much anymore. Maybe I can. Did they change it? To answer your question, no. No, you can't actually... can't publish a video while you're streaming. Good, unless you can't publish your current stream while you're streaming. Good.